I medicalized 17 years ago at an LGBT center. I'm a CSA survivor. Doctors told me that what was wrong with me and how I felt about my body was not from CSA, even though I went there and said, did CSA make me this way?
CSA?
Yes, a childhood sexual assault. And they said no. They said no. They said being gay is innate and being trans is innate, and what you have is gender identity disorder. They diagnosed me with gender dysphoria, and I believed their bullshit for about 17 years.
Are you willing to tell me everything that you went through?
I had facial feminization surgery. I had sex reassignment surgery. I was on HRT for 17 years. Now I'm on a combo dose.
Did y'all hear what she said? She said that she told these quote unquote doctors, aka activists, she told them that she was suffering from, these sexual assaults that took place in her childhood. And they gaslit her out of that in order to put her under this life-transforming, life-altering procedure and process that's going to strip her very humanity from her. Now, here's the thing, and I was contemplating this morning. These people, these said activists, these said gender affirmers, and the rest of this so-called woke nonsense, there's three groups, I believe. There is the group that genuinely believes this because they are mentally incapable, they're smooth-brained, they're mentally ill, etc., right? They just don't have the ability to actually process reality in its proper context. So you have them, and I feel bad for them, and they need help. Then you have the group who is misinformed and willfully misinformed because the information is there. It's just that they don't want to see the reality because they are propagandized and they want to continue to affirm their very own belief system. Likely it's a tool and a mechanism that they use to perpetuate their own bitterness, their resentment, their hatred, right? It's like the people who are these social media socialists, comment section communists. The reason they purport to be these things is because they're actually envious, they're bitter, and it's a worldview that helps them to perpetuate that very same ideology instead of actually dealing with themselves. Then you have the last group, and this is the most dangerous, the ones who actually know it's wrong. When I look at some of these guys like the Neil deGrasse Tysons of the world, or, now Bill Nye and these sorts of guys, it's like, you're scientists. You're supposed to be dealing with the world from a place of realities, and yet you're pushing this nonsense like gender is a spectrum. Huh? You're a scientist and you're pushing that nonsense. So I have to believe that it is not that you are mentally incapable of understanding because you deal in other realities. It is not that you, per se might be propagandized to the point where you don't really see what's in front of you, but instead you actually have to be a malicious actor per se. You have to be somebody who has malicious intentions. You profit off of something like a lot of these doctors because it's a lifelong patient. I was telling my girl this. I said, part of this is the business aspect. If you're able to get somebody on these medications for the rest of their life from childhood, you have a lifelong customer because you need to take these things for a lifetime, as far as I understand, in order to fully transition. So you will continuously have to do these things in order to create this make this warped reality true and manifest. You have to get the surgeries, you have to get this, that, and then they start doing the facial reconstruction and all this other nonsense that somebody is being paid for. You have to get the pills from somebody. Somebody's being paid for that. Those are malicious actors, and they're the most dangerous. And I feel like they're the ones who are the ones pushing these kids into, no, it's not your trauma. It's not this you're dealing with. It's because you are really in the wrong body. That's evil right there. So I'm gonna let her continue. I think it's her. I don't even know. Nowadays, I can't even tell. I don't know, but I'm assuming that this is a quote unquote biological female.
Being gay is innate and being trans is innate, and what you have is gender identity disorder. They diagnosed me with gender dysphoria, and I believed their bullshit for about 17 years.
Are you willing to tell me everything that you went through?
I had facial feminization surgery. I had sex reassignment surgery. I was on HRT for 17 years. Now I'm on a combo dose because I can't go off. I have multiple health conditions from transitioning young and for transitioning for so long.
Wow. So what was it for you that kind of woke you up to, this isn't what I should have done?
I found out that homosexual transition was environmentally caused in almost every single case by childhood sexual assault or by internalized homophobia or failed boy syndrome. I was given a blanket diagnosis. It's given to anybody who has a body issue as a child nowadays.
Did they ever try to refer you to like a therapist or any?
I went to therapy for a year. I saw psychologists. I was diagnosed. It took a year back then, not 15 minutes. And I was in the South on the East.
That's such an important point right there. Nowadays, in your first session, they can already say, yeah, you have to change your gender. Yeah, that's the only solution. Jordan Peterson did a interview with a young woman who went through the same thing at a very early age. And she's still a young woman, but she was explaining how she only had one therapy session before they made their decision. Like, what decisions are ever made off of one session of anything? Unless the person is trying to obviously extract something from you, get something from you, they have some ulterior motive, or they're just that smooth brain themselves. You don't go into therapy and say, the problem is this and this, right? Even doctors with your biology that is a lot more straightforward will go through multiple tests, hopefully. But I also put this on those doctors to say, we need to stop this model of just looking at everything from the external and that's it. We need to get into psychology. What happened? When's the last time a doctor asked you what happened? What took place? Let's sit down and actually process this instead of just throwing a medication at your forehead. Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe, just maybe, this is an emotional manifestation that then turned physical. Maybe just maybe you are your right gender. You just don't feel safe, or you don't feel like, comfortable in your own skin. Maybe, just maybe, that's the case. But according to them, no, because that's not profitable. This is a business, folks.
But they still believed that transsexualism was innate, that gender identity was this innate disorder that people just had, and like CSA didn't really rule you out.
How do you find your story received by people who continue to sort of push medicalization?
They hate me. They call me a bigot. They say that trans women are women. They say that gender dysphoria is a valid diagnosis. I've combed through trans history. I've read all of the old academics who created this. If you go back to like the early 1900s, transition was conceived by old academics who were trying to find a way for homosexuals to exist in a fascist world in Europe. It just so happens that AGP is also real, and that got latched onto. A bunch of AGPs transitioned, and fast forward 100 years forward, and we have an ideology that's based on lies that kids are told to as soon as they have issues. And God forbid you're effeminate and you believe that something's wrong with you. As
there used to be such thing as tomboys and tomgirls, I guess you would say. Metro, you got some sugar in your tank. You're a little sweet. Nowadays, you're not just sweet. You understand me? Nowadays, you're just in the wrong body. You're a girl. No, you're literally, yes. You were born with that thing between your legs. Yeah, I understand. Okay, yes. You're 210 pounds of pure solid muscle. Yes, we understand. But you're a girl, though. You're a girl. You understand? The reason you feel the way you do is because you're in the wrong body. That is insane. If we just thought about that from any other context, I think it was Dave Chappelle who did in one of his stand-up acts. It's like, how crazy would that sound if, let's say, if it was race-based? And it's like, I am an Asian man. It's like, how do you know? It's because it's how I feel. And he does the Asian accent. I'm not going to get there because, y'all going to use that against me one day. Say, see, I told you it was a racist. I told you. Well, aren't we all, right? But being in the wrong body, or at least not feeling comfortable in your body, is a phenomenon that almost every teenager is going to go through. You're going to feel uncomfortable. I mean, you're going through this process called puberty, and things are weird and out of whack and quirky, and this is growing and that's not, and it's just a weird time. Voices are breaking, all sorts of stuff is going on. There's still grown-ass folks who haven't gotten over that aspect, but it doesn't mean you're on the damn wrong body. And so for somebody to take that from a child especially and to manipulate that to essentially hijack that in order to profit off of it, that is a sick and vile thing that they're doing. And Hollywood is filled with it, all types of depravities, but that specifically. How many Holly weirdos have a child who has this, who is this, well, has this? You ain't got a damn thing. Your narcissistic parents are looking for more narcissistic supply and to virtue signal and to use you as a virtue signal. But damn, let us continue. Let's finish this one off.
Man, because you like pretty things and are sassy.
So how do you identify now?
I'm a gay man.
Have you lost friends or anyone by detransitioning?
I was canceled by every friend I had who was liberal in this city and had to leave the city.
Why is it important for you to be here?
Because people are being lied to when they're being diagnosed. They're not being diagnosed with what actually causes the gender dysphoria. They're just being diagnosed with a symptom of a problem. And there are multiple problems that cause those symptoms. And when you don't appropriately diagnose people, you lead them into a life of ruin. All of these interventions are permanent, they're irreversible, and they lied to me.
And I want to address something she said there. They got rid of her because she... How do I put this? Because she does not affirm their delusion, right? And we all do this to some capacity. The extent obviously is contextual, etc. But it's like you want to surround yourself with people who affirm your beliefs, who affirm your identity, affirm the things that you hold closest. So when somebody is going in opposition to the things you believe, even you watching this, like the things that resonate is because within you there's something that's already in resonance. If you're triggered, it means there's something that is in contradiction to your belief, right? Now, you may be wrong or you may be right, but it's still going to be a trigger because there's a sort of cognitive dissonance and you want to get back to homeostasis. You want to get back to a common ground per se, right? You want to get back to a comfort zone. So they don't want to hear that, hey, this is actually a mental illness. This is all of that is irritating their demons, even though it's the truth. The reason why it irritates them in such a way is because it contradicts their reality. And this is talking about the people who have truly bought into this. Either those who have, the smooth-brainedness, those who are so propagandized, whatever it may be, they're so given over and they need this to be a reality in order for them to essentially cope with their world. Instead of healing, with this or processing this in a healthy way, they need to continue to affirm the delusion in order to continue to exist in that defense. I know that's a little dense per se, but I'm pretty sure you catch what I'm throwing. We all look to do this in some place in our life, and it's just unfortunate that this sort of coping and defense mechanism, it ruins people's lives, and it is being targeted to kids. Like, it was different when it was just the dudes in the backways and the byways and the highways and those sort of dressing up as women or whatever it is. But now they're pushing this towards the kids, and they want your kids to be not just seeing it, but engaged and involved and to be it and to manifest their delusions in order for them to feel their delusions are real. There's no such thing as a quote unquote transformer kid. There's instead a deluded or narcissistic parent who then allows for this delusion to become materialized. There is no there's no such thing as a guy turning into a girl turning into a guy, actually. I can say that 1,000 times and it still won't register for some because we've gotten so disillusioned. You can have somebody who is believing and feeling that way, but a belief is not reality and a feeling is not reality unless it is rooted in reality. But it doesn't necessarily have to be to exist. So, I'm glad that there are people like this who are speaking out. Because imagine the pain that you experienced. And this lady here does not want other people to experience that pain. I believe that's what that's about. It's like me. I talk about things as far as, the victim mentality that's seeped into quote unquote black culture and the degeneracy that came and is being promoted and endorsed, but also enabled. And when I speak against that, even though I'm correct in that, it's still very triggering for a lot of folks because they need that reality to still exist in order for them to never face themselves and to deal with themselves. So shout out to everybody who is continuously living in the truth and telling that truth. You might be shaking in your boots every time you do, but so long as you continue to tell the truth and you don't compromise, that's how we change the narrative. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3, 6, 5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.